Hi, you're watching TFI, Indian Social Media's OG.
In a surprising revelation, the prevalence of racism in South Korea has recently been thrust into the spotlight by popular YouTuber Nikita Thakur. Thakur's video sheds light on the discrimination faced by Indians in the country, revealing a disconcerting reality that many foreigners, particularly Hindus and Muslims, find themselves subjected to. Startling reports indicate that an alarming 7 in 10 individuals have encountered some form of racial bias. The video presentation by Nikita vividly illustrates instances where Indians are outright prohibited from entering certain establishments, as evidenced by explicit banners proclaiming Indians out. This blatant exclusion extends beyond mere restriction, with individuals of Indian descent often being treated as if they are untouchables or outcasts in society. Perhaps even more disheartening is the revelation that discrimination permeates everyday interactions to the extent that native inhabitants promptly intervene to clean surfaces that Indians have come into contact with. Such instances paint a grim picture of the deep seated prejudice faced by the Indian community in South Korea. This stark reality stands in stark contrast with the adoration and idealization that many Indians express toward South Korean celebrities and the nation itself. While Indian fans wholeheartedly embrace South Korean culture, it appears that regrettably a reciprocal sentiment may not be uniformly reciprocated. The apparent contradiction between the admiration Indians extend towards South Korea and the hostility they face within its borders raises poignant questions about the complexities of cross cultural perceptions and the need for a more inclusive dialogue. The roots of racism against Indians in South Korea can be traced to a stringent beauty standard ingrained in the culture. The preference for pale glass skin and a petite frame sets an unattainable benchmark that many Indians do not conform to, perpetuating discriminatory attitudes. The pervasive nature of these beauty standards is not confined to private entities. Public organizations also uphold superficial requirements based on physical appearance, prioritizing looks over a candidate's potential or capabilities. The video by Nikita Thakur reveals a disheartening reality where looks are paramount, overshadowing the qualifications or skills of individuals. This emphasis on superficial qualities exacerbates the discrimination faced by Indians in various aspects of life. Furthermore, Koreans' resentment towards Indians is attributed to the perception that many Indians are engaged in menial jobs, a sentiment that fosters disrespect among the local population. Efforts by the government to curb racism have been met with obstacles. In 2016, an anti discrimination bill aimed at addressing such issues was proposed but faced significant opposition from large businesses and employee associations. Ultimately, the bill was Ultimately, the bill was rejected, signaling a reluctance to enact legislative measures against racism. Trade relations between India and South Korea have shown remarkable growth over the past few years, culminating in a record high bilateral trade volume of $27.8 billion in 2022. This marks a significant increase from $17.2 billion in 2018, demonstrating a consistent upward trend despite a slight dip in 2020 due to the pandemic. The year over year growth rate in 2022 was an impressive 17.3%. The composition of this trade is noteworthy. India's exports to South Korea, valued at $9 billion, predominantly includes mineral fuels, cereals, and iron and steel. Conversely, South Korea's exports to India, amounting to $18.8 billion, mainly consist of electronic goods, machinery, and chemicals. This trade pattern has resulted in a trade deficit that currently favors South Korea. The growth in trade between these two nations can be attributed to several factors. Key among these is the implementation of the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, or CEPA, in 2010. Additionally, increasing Korean investments in India's manufacturing and service sectors and the rising Indian demand for Korean consumer goods have further bolstered this bilateral relationship. South Korean companies have a significant presence in India and we contribute to the majority of their revenues. Here are some of the biggest South Korean brands in India. Samsung. It is the top smartphone brand in India, currently having a market share of 17.2%. The company earns over $7 billion in revenue from India alone. Its market share in India is bigger than twice its market share in its home country. LG is another such company that currently holds the second largest market share in home appliances manufacturing in India. The company reported over $2.7 billion in revenue from India in FY23. It is the largest durable goods manufacturer in India. From kitchen appliances to smartphones, it has a wide customer base in India. Hyundai Motors is a big player in the automobile sector. The company remains a leading player in the motor sector in India as it holds a massive 14.51% share in the Indian market. The company reported a revenue of $5.64 billion from India. It sold 525,000 units in India, which is much, much larger than the home country itself. Kia Motors, an emerging player in the automotive sector, started its operations in India recently. Within a span of few years, the company has gained an incredible market size of 6.67%. The revenue reported by the company was around $5 billion. Apart from these, there are more Korean companies in India trying to expand their operations. The trade between two countries has been increasing steadily. Somehow, India stops South Korean companies from selling here, it is going to have a huge negative impact on the country's economy. South Korea should not forget that India is not just an economic powerhouse, but the biggest open market in the world, too. China learned it the hard way when PUBG, TikTok, and 100 other Chinese apps were banned and biggies like Huawei and ZTE were shown the door. China got a bill of $60 billion just for irking the Indians through its skirmishes in Indian territory. The repulsion for Chinese products in India is such that made in China products garner an instant dislike and their share of market has been steadily decreasing. South Korea should learn a lesson or two from China. South Korea isn't exactly a big economy, and racism towards Indians is going to cost their companies their entire fortunes. South Korea would also be wise to remember that Bharat, that is India, is the oldest as well as the first civilization of the world. We respect all others, but your freedom ends where my nose begins.